Hi, my name is Marc Paats. I'm from Rocket Software, and I want to get you to the presentation how to choose the best API deployment options. Yeah, this is me. I'm in this IBMI space, or AS400 as we all know it, for quite some time. Actually, from the beginning, I have experience with system 34, 36, 38, all that, those kind of systems. So I've been around for a while. I'm working as a solutions engineer now for Rocket Software. And that's it. So today, if we look at work, it's changed, especially the last 5 years. If we see the development after COVID, a lot of people work from home. I guess if you look at this space here, a lot of people see that change as well. Especially in the AS400 or IBMI space, I should say. Retirement is also on the edge. A lot of people look at me, mid-50s, are going to retirement pretty soon. AI is something that's also come into play, so jobs are changing. AI is taking over jobs. It will also generate new jobs. So a lot of change is on the way. So here's a statement from Forbes. Around 94% of all companies globally use cloud software currently. And we've seen an increase since the COVID pandemic. Working remotely, I just mentioned it, change for working, the way we work, accelerated that adoption for the cloud technologies. So the same is true for API demand. API demand now with AI, we see that basically goes hand in hand. So more than 30% of increase for applications will come in 2026 for AI using the API models. So why not jump right in? So before you get deployment options for APIs, you need to figure out a plan. You need to have a plan. So you have to start there. You have to start with your business. What does your business need in your environment? Figure out how you create your API and manage your API around that. That's basically what needs to be done, right? So setting up the foundation for success. So you start creating your API, but you need to have your API management, your DevOps, and your deployment strategy in place first. So again, start with a plan and then create your APIs. So your plan needs to include the business driver, right? What do you want to accomplish? If you want to accomplish productivity, reduce CapEx, customer experience of a call center, for example. We've implemented the API technology for a call center where we can combine several systems into one by calling just one API and giving a single class of pane for the information. We want to connect different systems, IBM, IBMI, to an API and get your information from there and combine that information into one API. So you need to have a plan. What are your business drivers before you start developing your APIs? And how will you execute, right? You need to know what's going on in your system. Process discovery, for example. What can be a tool for that? Is it just simple application integration? You just want to connect to a system, get some information from there, and that's it. As I said earlier, cross-system integration, IBMI, IBM, other systems combined into one single view. Refactoring. So you have old programs that you want to combine and refactor those. Strangler effect. Old systems, and you want to slowly move out from existing applications and move that to an API environment. And then there's another factor that you need to consider. What are your technical requirements? What capabilities will you have? The tool needs to understand IBMI, including your old RPG business logic programs, databases. the ability to combine APIs into one bigger one. We call it composite APIs, for example. Security is also important. A lot of times, the APIs will collect credit card information, addresses, etc. We need to secure that. Performance is also something that you need to consider, right? If you have a cloud strategy, where is the data that you extract with the API? Where is that coming from? Is it coming from different continents? Is it coming from a location with poor performance stacks? So that's an issue that you need to look at. So API management. As I said, you need to have a management tool in place. It's recommended, right? It goes from planning, where you plan your API, what data do you need to collect. You need to design the design phase, input output parameters for that API. Then you start coding and develop your API. Deployment, where you want to deploy your API, for example, cloud premises, lots of options there. And then from there, you want to monitor, you want to analyze your API and see what it does, what data does it collect, who's using it, etc. And then from there, if it starts, you need to version to the next version, maybe extend it with extra parameters, for example. Or maybe you come up with a better idea and bring it to retirement. So the management features that typically we think need to be in place is a policy manager. I don't know if you're familiar, for example, with a Google API, for example, where you have a big key in front in order to access that API. That's something that you can accomplish with a policy manager. But you can also think of security that you put in place. Who's able to access that API? From what location is able to access. And then from there you see the management feature that you need also is API analytics. And you need to find out what the API is doing, who is accessing it. Are there any bugs or things that are going wrong with the API, and with the API analytics you can find that out. And the API gateway is something that's in between the user and the system, let's say. And then we have the API portal, right? The developer portal that it gives you access to how to code your API, develop your API. And then you have, of course, some deployment flexibility that you need to have in place in order to deploy your API to the outside world. So when we talk about development options, there's several that we can think of, right? This option is internal developed platforms. The advantage is that you have in your own hand, of course, but it will take a lot of resources. And the end of the story, a lot of times you find out that it takes a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of manpower to keep the API up and running and active. And as I said, it's a high maintenance cost a lot of times. Then we have the open source option. Of course, a quick start to customized platform. And we have all the techies that are looking at the open source code to improve that, and fix bugs and stuff. But it's still a resource intensity, longer time to launch, and a high maintenance cost as well. So, not the ideal option, I think, but sometimes it is. And then, option 3 that I think of is proprietary solution. It's up and running quickly. Fewer internal resources needed to implement and manage. But there's initial cost and potential vendor lock-in. Sometimes hard to understand and use. Then also that's something that you need to look at is your DevOps environment. When you start developing APIs, you want to make the APIs part of your DevOps best practice solution, right? You want to make sure that it falls into this development practice. So monitoring API performance is something that you can do also in your DevOps environment, right? When you start developing your API, make sure that you test it early and make sure that all your departments work together. Your IT, your operations department work together. So you find issues early with developing these APIs. Implement API security. Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer that APIs need to be secured as well, right? Through all kinds of mechanisms that are available, you can implement API security to make sure that the data that you send across those lines are secure. The APIs need to be tested continuously to find bugs early in the development process. If you do that, you make sure that those bugs will not end up in your production. And you can do that with the automation that DevOps tools provide. Right? And then the containerization, difficult word for me. That's also something that you can put in place, especially the automation part with DevOps is something that will lend itself very good for containerization and make sure that you implement and deploy it quickly to your production environment. Another one, follow API design principles. By using your DevOps tools, you can make sure that your development principle and develop your API design principles are being taken care of and being enforced using the DevOps tools. And continuously optimize. When you test your APIs continuously, you can also continuously optimize your API for performance use, for usability. So you make sure that you catch early what's going on with that. And enable CI/CD, which is part of the DevOps tools, right? Continuous integration, continuous development. And that will make sure you will catch your issues early in the development process again. And another one, the last one for this topic, simplify compliance. Right? By creating APIs and using cloud technologies, you don't know always, or actually you should know, it can come from different places, different countries, different continents who have different legislation, different laws, different compliance rules. And by using DevOps, you can make sure that all those compliance rules are being taken care of in your development process already. So, where to deploy? That's also an important question to answer. Where can cloud solve a problem for achieve a business initiative? In the early days of cloud, everybody was moving everything to the cloud. And we see now that this is not a solution that we want to follow. There are certain workloads that fits better into the cloud and certain workloads that fits better into an on-premise system. Right. So deployment consideration, where we need to take a look at workloads, the geolocation of consumers, service providers for skills and shortage. Right? We are looking at the retiring workforce, so maybe a service provider can be of help there. Compliance is something that we need to take into consideration. Generative AI and what goes where. So let me go over those topics So the workloads, what you need to look at is that the volume of the transactions. If you can imagine that if a workload needs to go overseas or needs to go to another continent, latency is a little higher than when you have it on-prem. So you need to find out what workload can have a little bit more response time, for example. Geolocation is something that you need to take into consideration, especially with the political environment currently. Where are your consumers, right? Where are the consumers of those APIs located? Are they in countries which is a little difficult to get by? Political issues, stuff like that. You need to need to take into consideration in order to find out where you want to put your workload for that cloud environment. MSPs for skill shortage. I don't know how it is in your company, but we see a lot of people retiring in the skills, or we have programs or applications that are running for more than 30 years sometimes. How you are dealing with that. Service providers can sometimes bring something to, add something to it to bring your APIs over there to support. And compliance, I said that earlier already. Compliance is not the same in every country. We have lots of rules and regulations and different requirements. If you look at the US or you look at Europe, there are all kinds of different requirements and compliance issues there. So you need to take into account that where you put your workload and make sure that you are in compliance with all the laws and all that kind of stuff. Generative AI. That's also something that you need to look at. As I said in an earlier slide, the APIs that we see are in combination with AI are growing fast. So you need to take a look at how you can forecast that usage of the API for generative AI, for example. So, yeah, as I said earlier, moving everything to the cloud is not necessarily something that you want to do, right? You need to pick and choose. Some loads are better off being on-prem, and some workloads are better being put into the cloud. And yeah, that's something that you need to make a plan for. Response times is also something, right? The batch is not that critical for response time. It could take a little longer, of course. We finished it in a decent amount of time, but user experience is something that needs to be up there, right? Response time is much more important for the users directly. And that's when you have your composite APIs. Database calls, direct database calls, or web services are much quicker than when you are creating an API around an existing green screen application, which we have a tool for. So you basically define your input and output parameters on your green screen. You follow your business logic, just like a user, and you come up with an end result. That's a screen API. And you can imagine that that's a little slower than a direct web-based or a database call. And if you combine those three, for example, in one composite call, the one that's on the bottom is the one that is can be the bottleneck. Here are some examples. One the on-prem deployment. And you see here that the latency is very good. We have that case there, but there are no cloud benefits. And then another flavor, hybrid deployment. 2 continents where the users are. My system is in Europe and the cloud is somewhere there. Latency and scalability. Scalability is nice, but latency is a little low there. A distributed hybrid deployment. We see that the scalability is very good. Geolocation, excuse me, is good. Compliance is nice, but the latency is still not up there. A native cloud deployment, which is for the cloud. We have the scalability, performance, and the cloud security is of what it needs to be, and we can use that environment from 2 continents. In this case, the US and Europe. Native cloud deployment there is something that's workable. Right? Even better would be something like this. You have your IBM system, 2 systems actually in the cloud. The performance is good because there's low latency, not a lot of performance degradation there. The cloud security is up to par. Geolocation, you got that covered because that cloud. And I know, for example, that some companies don't want to use a cloud environment that's located in the US when they're working in Europe and vice versa. So with all the rules and regulations, the setup like it would probably work best in a location like that. So the takeaways from this short presentation, I had a lot of slides that I had to put into a very dense time slot, so we will be, and actually I think this presentation will be made available through the online. Yeah. So always start with the business challenge and make sure that you know what you want to accomplish, and then start working from there. Use the approach that best solves that problem. It's a broad statement, but that's actually what you need to do. And have a strong API management implementation. You can create all kinds of APIs, but if your company starts growing and the API starts growing, more and more APIs are adding to it, it's going to become a nightmare to manage that. So make sure that you are able to do that. Implement DevOps. When you start developing, if it's one API, then you probably can cover it. But if it's more than that, as I mentioned earlier, make sure that you are using your DevOps environment, your DevOps solutions around creating APIs. Approach deployment decisions based on 6 criteria. Here they are. Workloads, we talked about that. MSP strategy, that it can be a solution for some companies that are working with aging workforce. AI strategy is something that's important. Geolocation, I explained that when using APIs or consuming APIs, it makes sense that you look at geolocations for the consumers where they are. Compliance requirements, also very important. We have lots of rules and regulations now in place, GDPR, all those other kinds of regulations that we need to follow. And what workflows make sense to move. So, as I said earlier, not everything needs to go to the cloud. Not everything needs to have an API. But you need to think about what goes where before you start developing your APIs. A little bit about Rocket Software. We are trying to modernize your environment without disruption. So, especially in IBM environment, We see a lot of applications, for example, that are in place for a long time, and the other customers don't want to touch that business line. Now we have tools and software to make sure that that's modernized without disruption. Going to the cloud or on-premise, it doesn't really matter. We are in the business for 34 years. We have a strong partnership with IBM. We actually developed software for IBM also under the covers. Put a stamp on it. And as you can see, we are actually in place where a lot of customers are using our software around the globe. Some questions. API first driven ERP transformation, you can find that on our website, rocketsoftware.com. You can find a lot more information. We have a lot of tools for IBM I and software that you can use. And are there any questions at this point? No? Then I will conclude this presentation. It's a short presentation. Thank you.